welcome back. In the last video, I showed you how to get the EC2 instance in AWS up and running. And now in this video, we're going to go through and install CTFd and navigate to it using the public URL that AWS gives us. But if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Follow the link down below to support if you can. But let's jump straight into it. So from here, what I did was I followed a guide. And I'll bring it up briefly and then I'll chuck it on the other screen so I can follow it while I show you guys. So made in 2019, a little while ago. I still found it pretty useful, and then I was fidgeting with a lot of other stuff. So we're pretty much going to follow this step by step. We're going to get to the point of testing with the public URL, I'm fairly certain. And then CTFd configuration. Yeah, we'll go through the rest of this. We'll make the log directories. We'll set this up. Yeah, we'll set all of this up. The SSL certs is going to be a separate video. So that's where I show you how I enable it with my subdomain. And I use CloudFlare, and we're going to go through the CloudFlare instance of how to do this and make sure that we can navigate to it with a URL that looks prettier than the AWS one. All right, so let's chuck that on another page. So we're pretty much going to be working in command line exclusively for this. So make this a little bit bigger. Commands won't go too far off to the side. Let's just open another one to make it look a little bit cleaner. All right, guys. Let's jump in. So the first thing it wants us to do is add a user. So let's add a user. I think, yeah, I need sudo add in new user CTFd. So for this demo, I'm just going to make the user and password CTFd because I'm going to blow away this instance as soon as this video is ready. We can ignore this. I'm just pressing enter. Is the information correct? Yes. So we now have a CTFd user. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add that user to the sudo group. So sudo user mod, because we want to make a modification to the user. And as you can see, my command line skills are ordinary at best. And we're going to make the change to the CTFd user. So that has added the CTFd user to the sudo group. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a whole bunch of changes to the firewall on the system. Now, you could probably make the firewall's probably open by default at this point. I'm actually not sure. It's something to look into. We've already SSH'd in, so assumingly AWS, as they've spun this system up, has at least enabled SSH, HTTP, HTTPS within the system itself. What we could do is we could look up how to check UFW status. That's whether it's running. I think I want the... I want the rules. So I think it's status numbered is the command that I want. So let's go sudo UFW status numbered. Okay, so the internal firewall is down. I guess this is useful if you are hosting it differently from AWS to go through this step as well. But presumably, maybe the firewalls are just open. So it's always good to be over secure than not secure at all. So we're going to enable allow OpenSSH, which we're using anyway. That updates the rules. You can see that it's updating it for IPv4 and v6 because we haven't specified one in particular. We're also going to allow HTTP, HTTPS, and then it's just a simple sudo ufw enable. It's talking about the SSH connection that we have into here, and we want to proceed with the operation. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. I think it's because SSH is coming in a weird direction. So if we go, I need to install NetTools because we don't currently have netstat. And then if we go netstat and look at the connections, there isn't. So this is our IP of the box, 172.3.1.1933. It's connecting. This is my IP. So it is coming via SSH. Okay. Never mind. I think CLS. No, I always forget. Clear. All right. So our firewall's enabled. Then we need to install a whole bunch of Python tools so that we can have a virtual environment that we're going to run the CTFd instance in with the CTFd user. So we're going to go sudo apt update. Takes a little while. Cool, not too bad. And then we want to upgrade. If this takes too long, I'll just cut the video and come back when it's done. All right, so that's done. The next command, I'm just going to paste in because it's a bit long to type out. We're essentially installing all the stuff for Python, and Nginx is the web server that we're going to be hosting the CTFd instance in, and Git is to clone the Git hub of the CTFd into our machine. So run that. That shouldn't take as long, I don't think. Again, I'll cut and we'll come back. All right, and we're back. So last thing we're going to do is we're going to install the pip virtual environment 2, or the pip environment. I saw this error. I Googled around for a bit. It didn't seem to affect what I was doing. So, and it didn't affect the end product with where I got to. So hopefully this doesn't cause an issue for you. It wasn't an issue for me. Then the next thing we're going to do is install the CTFd server. So we're going to change to our website directory, and we want to clone the GitHub. So while we're doing this, we'll navigate to the GitHub. So this is their GitHub. There should be, yeah, so there's a README down here. They've got documentation for, well, they show a demo as well, so you can have a look at what it looks like with an admin username and password. You'll be able to see like your own once we've set this up as well. They do manage hosting for their website, which I think is a little bit expensive. Like, makes sense for them if your business wants to pay for it, great. Like, I think for me though, running it on a free instance, and it really depends on how many users you're going to have accessing it and how much content you're developing. But following this guide, you can kind of do this all yourself. So if you're going to copy the Git from here, this is where you copy it from. If you've never seen GitHub, and just copy that. But yeah, we'll head back to the command line. It should be done. Yep. So it's done now. If we do an ls, we can see that the CTFd is here. The next thing we're going to do is switch to the CTFd user. The password was just CTFd. And so you can see here, we have changed. We've changed from the Ubuntu user to the CTFd user. If you want to back out of the user, you just type exit. If we typed exit again, we'd jump out of the SSH session. Let's just jump back into that user. And then we want to change the ownership of the CTFd folder. So tac capital R because we want it to be recursive. CTFd, and we want to leave it in the group of the web server, which is the www-data, and then go CTFd. Yep. And then we need the password. Not crown, chown. And then change into the CTFd folder. Awesome. And then we want to create ourselves a pip virtual environment. So I think I had trouble with this first command. If I go Python 3.6. So this is what's written in the notes. So warning, Python 3.6 was not found on your system path to Python. I think I did it. Yeah, so I had to remove the space in here. So in the notes it has this, and I removed the space, and then it worked. And then we want to go pip env shell. So we'll see soon. So this drops us into a shell, and you know that because of this little bracket thing, which means we're in a virtual environment. Virtual environments, I'm going to get this explanation wrong. I always think of it as like containerized, so we can make changes specific to where this virtual environment is created, and it doesn't affect anything outside of those environments. So I can make changes in here, and it doesn't affect not being in the virtual environment. I'm sure there's videos that explain that much better, and I'll try and find one and put it in the notes, but in my mind, that's how I envision it. And then we want to run the prepare script. So there's a whole bunch of deployment options in here. There's actually the Docker compose option, but we're going to use the Python method. So we're just going to run this script, and then password again. And we'll jump back once this is done. All right, and we're back. So what we want to try and do now is test it. So we know that the prepare.sh script is designed to use the Nginx server that we've already installed in a previous step. So we're going to go through the steps and sudo allow 5,000. Too many sudos. UFW. Yep. And then we want to gunnercorn bind CTFd create _app. Okay, so we've temporarily served up the web server on port 5000. Now, I think to do this, all we need to do is go back to our instance, grab, I opened it, but we grab it. We can see that it doesn't go to anything, but if we navigate to port 5000, let's see if this works. This might not. I might have had to configure the Nginx. Yeah, okay. I had to configure the Nginx settings first and then demo it. So if you're running this on a VM and you've got to this point, you can actually open up a browser, or if we had a GUI method in our Linux server, we could open up a browser, navigate to the local host, and then port 5000, and it would actually bring up the CTFd instance. But what we're going to do is we're going to go and configure the Nginx server, and then we'll come back and we'll do the testing again. Because configuring the Nginx server is not going to change anything with the CTFd instance. So just Control-C out of that. we'll make this a little bit clearer. We'll jump into the CTFD configuration. So the next step, it asks to look at the pip and virtual environment. I found with the environment path, it was the same anyway, because I use the same user. So if you've used a different user than CTFD, you're going to have to change some things. But I found that one of the later directories, as we'll see, was the same anyway. So you can see here. So if your user is different, you'll need to change this in the settings. But I found that this folder was the same for both, which I thought I might have to change. And then what we want to do next is we want to create a file for the CTFD service. So sudo v. If you haven't used v, again, like go out there and look at the commands. I'll try and talk through the commands as much as possible. They're pretty basic for this. Etc systemd, and then system, and then ctfd.service. Okay, so this is V. It's like a command line text editor. What we're in now is, I forget which mode, but we want to go into the insert mode. So from here, we want to press I. And we can see down here, we're in the insert mode. To get out of the insert mode, you hit escape. And you can see there's no insert, so we're out of it. We're going to go I. I'm just going to copy all the stuff that's on that web page that I had before, down to including the line under install. So come back here, right click. We're just going to have a look to make sure. So in insert mode, you can actually make edits. If we go out of insert mode, I actually can't type anything. So back into insert mode. So the Gunnercoin instance, path is fine. Okay, so there's nothing in here that I think I changed. So, sorry. Let's go back into insert. So from insert, hit escape. Then we're going to do a colon, and then we want to write and quit, and then hit enter. So that wrote our file and then exited the file. If we go cat ctfd dot, nope, because I'm not in the right file. If I go etc systemd system CTFD service, we can see that the changes were saved. If you go ever into a file in V and say, let's say I go into insert and I really fuck it up. If I go out and I go colon Q exclamation mark, it means force quit and don't save changes. So if I go cat the CTFD service, I think it was in environment or exec start, I made all those changes. You can see that they're not there anymore. And that's what we want. All right, the next two things is we're creating the log directories. I'm just going to copy these in and paste them. So this will create both of them, or sorry, it will create the log directory and then changes the ownership. Just copy this. So we've created a log directory in var log. Standard place to store logs on Linux is in var log. We've just created a couple of directories and logs. And then we change the ownership to the CTFD user. And then what we want to do is we want to start the CTFD service. So sudo system control enable CTFD. Looks like it's created a symlink for it. And then we want to start. So what I'm doing here is just pressing up on the keyboard so that I can get the previous command, and then I'm just changing it. And then we want to check. So after we started, we just want to check the status. So we can see here running. And then to exit this, you just hit Q, and that quits back to the command line. All right, next thing, we need to create the Nginx site. So I wonder if this is being served now. And if it's being served, it'll just be like the default Nginx page. Let's try. Yeah. Okay. So here we are. So I changed HTTPS to HTTP, so which means port 80. We could have also done, I think this would have worked as well. So if we just put port 80 at the end. Okay, doesn't work. Networking marvels. So this is the Nginx server that we're actually running on our Linux instance or on our Ubuntu instance in AWS, which is awesome. So it means that it's working. We just need to configure it so it points to the CTFD, and then we'll point to this URL. So we'll go back into here. We need to make a site. Now, I named mine my actual site. So, yeah, okay. So let's do it this way. Let's go sudo v Etsy Nginx sites available. Yeah. And then we want to name the file so that it's easier. Well, you can name it CTFD if you want, because you're actually going to configure it within it. But I just named it my website because you may want to run multiple instances at different subdomains. So I'm going to call this ctfdemo.hardlyadequate.com. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a subdomain called CTFdemo later on in another video. And then we're going to configure it and do the SSL certificates and everything and point it to this. And then, yep, I'm going to drop into here. And then I'm just going to copy the server config. We're going to drop into insert mode. So press I, paste it in here. Now we're going to have to change this server name stuff. So it does the root domain, and then it does, so www is considered a subdomain, but generally, like if you're in Chrome and you type in your domain and then hit Control Enter, it pre-fills the www. So if you don't redirect that yourself, it won't go to anything because you haven't told the DNS servers where that is. For this though, we're only going to need the public URL and then the public IP address for our instance. So we're going to jump into here. We're going to copy the public URL, right click to paste, and then we're going to do a space. And then we need to find the public IPv4 address, which is this one. We're going to copy that. We're going to paste that in there. And then we're going to hit escape to exit insert mode. I'm going to go right quit. And then we want to make we want to link a symlink file into the sites enabled folder. So from here, we're going to go sudo ln-s Etsy Nginx sites available, and the CTF file that we just made, and we want to link this into Nginx sites enabled. Yeah. So then we can check if we go copy that. So I highlighted right click, which actually copies as well, and go ls sites enabled. We can see we've got two symlinks. So the default is what we were looking at. So this is the default. But what we want to do is we want to remove that because we just want our server here running this. So the next line is, and I'm just going to copy this, but removes the default from both the sites available and sites enabled folder. Right, protected. I think that permission died, so I need sudo. Cool. So that removed it. So if we go ls here, no. ls sites enabled. We only have mine now. And then sites available will be the same. Cool. And then we get to test the configuration. So sudo nginx -t. So syntax is okay, test is successful. Good news. And then we want to restart. So I think, let's try and test this. There we go. So we're up and running. What we've done is we've pointed the URL to our CTFd server, which is what we want to do. There's some more stuff here with troubleshooting, and then it gets into like SSL scripts and everything. There's going to be 2 more videos. So, well, 3 more videos actually. I'm going to do a Docker one eventually to show you to do that, because I think where I failed here was not removing the default Nginx files in both of those things, and I was having trouble with networking, and it was just doing my head in. And then I found this write-up, which we're following. So we're going to do that. I'll step you through the CTFd setup. So you want to set this up because this is served on the public now, which means you want to set it up and lock it down and create your admin user first so that no one else can do that. Otherwise, you have to restart the server. And then the other video I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through CloudFlare and how to set up to the subdomain like I was showing you, where you'll need the SSL certificates and everything. So thanks guys for watching. If you've liked it, please like, subscribe, show your support down through the link at the bottom, but I'll catch you all in the next video. Bye.